PR Connections Radio presents.
Did you know your clothing could help balance your body's pH levels? Our cutting-edge fabric technology naturally promotes optimal pH balance, helping you feel energized, refreshed, and at your best every day. Use promo code PRTalk for more info. Tap the link in the description or contact our experts at 702-445-9488 to learn more.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today at PR Connections Radio. I'm excited about today's episode. I'm your host, Lisa Vasquez. And today it's going to be a different kind of conversation beyond hormones and symptoms. This conversation is going to identify the vision and our voice, some of the things that we lose on that trail as we shift into different phases of our life. And I want to bring this to attention because actually this is all about our dreams and what did we leave behind and what happens when the badge comes off from work, when those years are over and you step down and you're no longer in a uniform all day long. Where are you and who are you at that point? A lot of times women get lost in that. And I've seen that over time. Again, I'm always relating to real stories from real women. And in these featured stories, it was so many of how what I used to dream of, but where I'm at today, and I'm nowhere near that vision. So why is it that women actually lose the trail when so I want to bring to the attention of the working woman and the new entering women that will enter the field and those that are almost on their way out is to reignite this conversation. Because when we get into dreaming and publishing books, I know that sounds like a long shot because I can't even imagine that I'm here to talk on this subject as an author of 5 books. So, and it was a dream, it was a vision, it was something that I journaled on, but it wasn't something that I actually seen myself until suddenly, and it was a surprise. Well, the cool surprise came actually as a new beginner on social media. I'm surfing the web and not knowing really good at that because my whole life, I think I didn't get into the web until 2018. I really wasn't into computers and social media. So after becoming a health coach, now you learn how to get on the web. And so as I'm running around the web, suddenly there was this group that showed up. And the title was, if I'm not mistaken, Speak, Write, and Profit. And I was like, wow, because I really like to talk. And then it was talking about joining to be part of this book. And it had some questions there. And because again, I'm not really good at that. I answered it kind of wrong. And that's the funny part because of this error is what led me into 5 books later. So by talking about this is why I'm saying that publishing, having a book, that's not always about just books. It's about awakening of the voice. It's the voice that we lost a long time ago. And if you lost it, today, maybe we could reignite it or have you take a vision back into those dreams that you once had. With this special guest that I'm about to bring on, it's just exciting to explore this because, again, becoming an author and seeing this dream come true. And again, another big dream is the point that in my visions and dreams, starting at 15, I had 5-year goals. So I was always chasing something, even if it took me at one point of 5 years to take off a life just to discover myself as a new woman coming into a career. So just bringing to the point that a lot of dreams, they really do come true. It's planting those seeds, it's building it, it's nourishing that vision, just like the garden. This is a garden of your heart because this is where all those dreams come from. So today, my special guest is actually my publisher. Her name is Charlotte Howard, Mrs. Charlotte Howard Collins, and she's a world record holding publisher, 8-figure business strategist, and powerhouse behind Wealthy Women University. That's what I got to join in our conversation. But I was telling you about that error. It was so funny because I had to catch her right away and let her know, no, I answered it wrong. I wanted to say this. And by that conversation, well, Charlotte heard my voice, and she's helped women generate over $100 million in revenue. And she has published more than 5,000 best-selling books. And I get to feel the confidence of that, which again, I had told you about my new book. It's finally out in copy, and it's so exciting to read about it, to hear the reviews that are coming out of it, and to see. And as I talk with Charlotte today, you're going to see how she brought this vision to life, because I've been in other books with her, but today I get to hold my own book, my solo. And so I like to welcome Mrs. Charlotte Howard Collins to the stage. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This is absolutely an honor.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm just excited. I'm excited that, today I'm interviewing you. I mean, I think it's been 3 years ago since we talked. When I first met Charlotte, she invited me to a Zoom group meeting. And here I was, little Miss No Name. And I was like, wow, I'm in the room, and I'm hearing all these authors and what they do and the stories that they're telling. And then there she is in the, boss chair, and I'm being invited by this. But wow, just sitting there, not thinking that, wanting it to be me, but could it be me? And she helped it. She opened the path for me to be here today. And so this is an exciting conversation to be talking with Charlotte. And so, Charlotte, go ahead and tell us about your new adventures, or even when we first met, how you picked me up and raised me up. I mean, you've seen a lot of transitions in my life.
Wow, Lisa. Wow. You keep saying that you were a nobody, but you were somebody. You still are somebody. It's just giving yourself permission. Like many of the women, they've been brought up, the family taught them, different systems, go to job, go get a job, and go to college, these different systems, that we all have, may have, whether it was your grandparent or your mom or your dad telling you to do specific things, but these are things that have been passed on, of course, from generation to generation. And sometimes you have to unlearn those systems. Like, being in corporate, I learned a lot of different things that then I was able to apply, of course, into entrepreneurship. And so, when you and I met, it, like you said, it was just absolutely amazing, because I love seeing other women, share their stories, because we all have a powerful story that could actually help others. You never know what challenges people are going through. Maybe there's a skill that you can teach others, at the same time as well. So just having you a part of the projects that we have, oh my goodness, we've done so many different projects together. But
so many.
to see
Cool
you
book.
with your book, to see you with your book,
right.
And then also the anthology, because it started out with just you contributing your chapter in the book, and then it's like, yes.
Look at that. That was the first framing of me. Could you imagine? I'm telling you, talking to the world, that was just an amazing moment. I was like, wow, really? Unstoppable, to top it off. Unstoppable. Absolutely. I was in a room.
Absolutely. And just being able to finally then meeting you in person, because yes, we meet all the time, virtually, but just to be able to meet in person finally, after we've had so many conversations and meetings. And it was just such a breath of fresh air, just to be able to be there, and then be able to give you a big hug in person.
And as she's talking about that meeting when we first met, it was just so incredible because that was for our book signing, my first book signing, and that was the whole what the community we had built. There was 25 women in this, and they were all glamorous women with different stories. So that little celebration was pretty big for us all to be there, to be doing a book signing. I mean, again, now hearing me, this wasn't something that, wow, now I'm standing next to Charlotte and all these women, and wow, then I have to go speak on stage and I have a voice. And I was like, oh my gosh, they really want to hear this. And it's just an amazing thing. But Charlotte, so, and as we do get out there, I know there's a lot of different conversations and people are saying, hey, let's do your book. It'll happen in 30 days, or, you could publish it yourself. And it's just this easy. And, in those aspects for those businesses, it may be. But when you join a conglomerate like Charlotte had, I mean, Charlotte tell us, because she stepped into this because of what she had seen in her past history, trying to create a book. So
Absolutely.
what was the offense that was taking place? Because the wrong roads were being set up to misdirect somebody who wanted to share a dream. But gosh, they were challenged by it, by, untruths. So what?
Right. Absolutely. And I actually started my publishing company because I had a company that they promised that they were going to publish my story. And what they did was I paid, it was $3,000 up front. And I never got that $3,000 back, but it was my very first anthology I was actually putting together. It's called Success in Beauty. And I had all of these different women just, being a part of that project. And because the publisher decided that they weren't going to publish it, because they decided that they wanted to request more money, they're like, okay, it's going to be more of an investment. And I was like, but you said it was going to be this amount. And that's why it's so important to, of course, make sure that when you are having like any type of business venture that you're doing, it's great to make sure you have your contracts in writing, but also have a lawyer on, I like to say, on speed dial, just in case you need to, bring them in to make the necessary changes. But after having that experience, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and launch my own company, and we're going to go ahead and publish it, because I had, already realized that I had a great following. And I had a great network of people that I surround myself around, and built a network of women. And I felt like, you know what, we could actually create this book as a international bestseller. And so we did. We launched it as a #1 bestseller. And that was from me going in and learning what I learned, and then bringing in and putting together my own team to be able to then not have women go through the same things that I had experienced. Because I feel like experience, of course, when you have that experience yourself, and if you can keep other women, for instance, from having to deal with a pain like that, then to me that is more than worth all of it, for me to help others just avoid that pain.
Yeah, because even though sometimes you do get into this world, just like anything else growing up, there's still going to be challenges, and there's still going to be communities and people that, they're not all for you. So you really being where you really want to, again, nurse those dreams that you're having, you really want to put them in a safe place. And a lot of times women, we have a strong instinct and feeling to know these things. So it's really important, because I don't know how many times you have gone through the error of saying, I wished I would have listened to myself the first time. And we don't, and we go the other way. Well, I learned that a long time ago. So that's why my instincts, my first thoughts usually come out to be the ones, because growing up for me, like you said, Charlotte, where we've grown and what we have learned from. So my parents, they're from the 30s, right? That was their growing up stages, and the challenges just for my father to come here and all those things. Well, when I was growing up, I'm a little girl, and so this is 60s, 70s, and I'm dreaming. I went to Mexico. My grandmother had a restaurant. I come home, I want a restaurant. No, no, no. I mean, my dreams were always shuffled to the side, and I did, people do these things that just can't be right. But that was the way the parents, for my upbringing, they did give me a lot. They had a lot, and they achieved a lot for where they came from and the years that they came from. So their achievements were golden, and I get that. But now I have to go after more because of what they've surrounded me with and gave me. But they kept shooting it down. And had I not kept penetrating the camp and trying to find that path to at least get me to some closer part to the island of, wow, where things can happen in this land of opportunity. That's what I had to go through. And a lot of it, wasn't inspired because of who I grew up with either. It was things that I saw on TV. And the one major memory was General Hospital. Really loved that program. White coats. Couldn't wait to see myself in that coat. And that day came, and it was just amazing for radiology. And what dreams came out of wearing that coat was even more powerful than, for me, Joseph's coat. I guess you would say of all colors, because mine was white. So it's pretty interesting, Charlotte. And I really thank you for sharing these questions with me, because we never got to talk this way, because we're always talking, getting ready for the book, next chapter, what have you, So many women, they step into their roles of being a mother, a nurse, an executive, without a personal vision. I mean, I know I heard a voice of someone who just maintained being that housewife, but her aspirations were she wanted to be in the Air Force. But at that time, parents said no, they didn't want her to sign up for that. So that kind of, buried the dream, and it never flourished into anything. So when we're in these critical stages, I mean, how many women do you receive that come out of taking off that badge or uniform and, create themselves into these books that you do, because you've got over 5,000 bestsellers? What kind of identities
Wow.
come out of?
Wow. Well, there are a lot of women that, of course, especially the women that I work with, they are in corporate and they're trying to transition full-time to become an entrepreneur. Now, I work with, I don't know, because before I got married, and still even now, I have a tendency to attract a lot of women who are single moms.
Ooh,
And I can relate
yes.
because I used to, before I was married, I actually used to work 3 jobs as a hairstylist. And so, and I would work, it would literally be over 60 hours a week. And so I can relate to the women, the single women trying to make ends meet, for their families. I can relate to the divorced mom, that's now single and, needing to, because of the divorce, needing to make ends meet as well. So it's like, well, we all have skills. So how can you then take those skills? That's what I teach the women, to unlearn, what society has put in place for them, that they have to, do what everyone else is saying instead of following their dreams. Because a lot of these women, they put their stuff on the back burner and they're too busy helping other people, mainly starting with their family, to fulfill their dreams, their goals. But then, because we're natural born nurturers, we have a tendency then to stop and just put our stuff to the side. But it's when you give yourself permission to put yourself first, then you're able to move forward. And a lot of times that's hard for women, especially when they've been programmed ever since they were younger to follow these, steps that parents and grandparents and teachers and church folks and everybody, everybody's telling them how to be, who to be, and they have to just unlearn all of that and understand that it's okay to be you. You don't have to hide anymore. You can now take that mask off and be yourself.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's for sure, because digging through this, just through all my dreams, again, like I said, I didn't have any traditional anything to fall back on, and I didn't do that until later on in life. And really, when I met you, that there really was something more in me. I knew I was chasing something. I didn't know what it was in women, as an instinct and a feeling. That there's something bigger and more out there for you, and that's why you just have to nourish, and that's where that self-love comes in, because we're taught to love, but we're not taught to remember ourselves to love, and unless you've caught some songs from Whitney, the best love affair is with yourself. You know what I mean? And I lived off of that. I had to love myself, growing up, like family complications, and so I had to treasure my little heart and protect the peace. And so I really put a lot of that in there, and everything I did to build to where I'm at today. I mean, I can't even imagine some of the things that I do, and speaking to the women in the world is even the biggest part of the dream, but it was everything that had to be done undercover. I had to go to work and I had to do all those things, but when I got home, I'd rest for a little bit and wake up like I'm at a second job. And most of my creativity would come out at nighttime. And so it was just really exciting to be able to share these conversations with you today in the workplace, women, and know that, see, Charlotte came from corporate. I mean, she was a hairdresser when this all started, a single mother. And today we have support. We do have a lot of single mothers, and we need direction, and we need to understand that, because again, when we have a hormone control, the hormones really take us out of who we are. You're running on this, and you have to bring it back and connect it all to you and empower and fuel that. And that's my whole dream of doing when I bring these conversations to you. I don't want it to get away like a wild stallion running on you, because that's a hormone and it's only going to be there for a little bit. But who are you? You have to connect that. So we often talk about stepping into our power, but for the many women, it's about returning to the power they once abandoned. So is there any story you could relate of somebody who came to you that really abandoned, even if it was one of your family members, something that you empowered? Because this is what it's all about, empowering women.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Well, my mom, she passed away, due to cancer. And, but before we actually, because we always would joke around, and she's always saying, all right, you have to make sure that you do things this way. But, as you're growing up, you just, as your parents are telling you stuff, you're like, oh, you're going to be around forever. I don't know about you, Lisa, but for me, I just always thought my parents would be around forever, ever since I was little. And so my mom, she empowered me a lot, because, I got entrepreneurship basically from her. As I was growing up, people would always ask her all the time for advice. And so just with her doing people's hair, even though she wasn't a hairstylist, my uncle was actually a hairstylist. He had his own salon and all of that. And so that's why I always can relate to a lot of the beauty professionals, because we have a long list of hairstylists in our family. at the same time as well. So and those women, you know, even with the women that I would do their hair, it's like it was all about giving them permission to say, hey, this is not, you know, because most people are like, oh, that's just that you don't need to get your hair done, you know, that's just a luxury. But no, it's an asset. So my mom, she used to faithfully get her hair done every single week, always say, you know, take pride in yourself, give yourself permission, you know, to you know, reward yourself, you know, for what it is that you're doing in life. And so if you're helping people you know, change their lives and transform their lives, then you should be able to be rewarded you know, at the same time as well. So that's where a lot of my empowerment came from. And you know, just the different women that I've, you know, encountered online and offline, being able to meet them in person and virtually, and finally meeting them, you know, of course, in person. Each and every day when I'm connecting with women like you, Lisa, it's very very empowering to see that, you know, at first you might not have believed that you would be able to achieve something, but then it's like, look now, look at you now. You have your book, your solo book is now published, and you're a #1 international best-selling author, and you're literally you've been in the space, you know, and you know, we started out with so many different projects, but to launch your own solo, you know, and you know, like I tell people, it's like you don't have to have everything in place. If you align with the right people, they can help you make your dreams a reality. And so that's what I'm saying for those of you that are listening in and tuning in. And you know, you may be thinking, wow, like, can I do this? You just have to give yourself permission to say, I want this, I deserve this, and then you go after it and do it.
See, yes, just like you said, again, the correlation, because you worked with so many women, so you know only our hairdressers know for sure, right? So the conversations you had to be really wild, and I know they could kind of relate to my medical conversation, because sometimes after, you know, they leave me in mammography, they're going to go get their hair done. So, you know, these conversations flow. But as I was saying, my dreams came from TV. So imagine I was growing up in the liberating women's world with Gloria Steinem, right? A big talker. And then Barbara Walters came out and she was another big talker. And then 80s. And now I'm in the Oprah world and I'm in Chicago and I'm dreaming about how to get into the magnificent mile down there, you know? So it's really crazy, but all those dreams is when you're finding the right gardeners that are going to come and help fix that soil, plant those seeds and what needs to go in there. And now it's time to water and now we get to bloom. And, you know, it's just a wild conversation, because in my room in mammography, I've got like the little Oprah. That's what I would call myself, because, you know, this is the 80s and this is when I started, right? So I'm in my room and I'm actually interviewing all these women behind closed doors, right? I mean, it's an interview. And I was like, wow, you know, so this was the fascinating thing, to have that enjoyment, just like I would see Oprah doing, because, you know, I always enjoyed watching her. I live there in Chicago. She's inspiring. She's what's changed the world of how we think as women. And here I am. And I was like, wow. So every day I had my own little Oprah moment myself in my room with my patients in medical, and to be able to write a medical scientific data book that's going to empower, but changing the tone into the empowerment, instead of, you know, a downer side. It's more brighter. It's so much fun. The characters are alive and the conversations are great. And the empowerment at the end of how this all ends in that story is just so cool for every little girl if they get to read this. So, you know, I'm just really thankful to see that some of our conversations, as I said, as you as a hairdresser, I can't imagine how were you dreaming? What was your dream? I mean, you're working through all this. You're a single mom. You had to have 3 different jobs. But where was your dream layered out in that moment to
Wow.
be?
Well, when I got diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome, which actually made me
Mhm.
realize, like, oh my gosh, like I have all of my eggs in one basket, even though I had 3 jobs, but all of my eggs came from the hairstyling egg, if you will. And so with that, it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't have any other type of income coming in. So then it's like, well, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be just like my mom. And so I was like, well, I better take what I learned and start putting it to work while I'm at work working for someone else. So that's when I started, actually started out with consulting and consulting with other beauty professionals, because they was trying to figure out ways too on how they could monetize their income, because they only had most beauty professionals, especially hairstylists, they all have mostly just, they're just focused on the skill side of it. They're not focusing on the multiple streams of income, like how to, really make your legacy, believe in the right way. So yeah, that's what we want to shift gears and definitely show people how to do that, because that way you're creating this lasting legacy. So when you aren't here anymore, that your legacy is still living on through books, living on through your videos, your audios, and everything in between, charities, philanthropy work, whatever it is your heart desires, you're able to do that. And so that's what excites me, being able to help these women, really make their dreams a reality.
And see, that's what liberating is. It's that's what it's all about. I mean, it's unbinding the women from the roles that try to define us, and that's not us. And as you said, that making that mark, that legacy. If anybody knows or ever heard Beyonce, one of my friends, she wanted to really spark this ignition in me, so she told me to hear Beyonce's song, and it's called "I've Been Here" or "I'm Here," something like that. But it's all about that mark that we're leaving. Another person talked about, when we're born and we're here, we're all, a community is in us, and bringing that out. So in your work at Wealthy Women University, it isn't just about business, it's about legacy. How do you guide women from building success to becoming architects of a generational impact?
Yeah, it goes back to what it's giving them. They have to give themselves permission to say, yes, I want this. This is what I want to do. I'm not gonna take no for an option. When it gets, when you have those tough times, you're gonna keep pushing through. It's all about being unstoppable. It's about, publishing your work, licensing your work, and creating that legacy around it. If you're wanting to really have your money work for you, we teach about, investing in different multiple streams of income, like real estate properties that you can get for as little as, investing in real estate properties for as little as $10 a month. Like, just being able to do things that you probably wouldn't think you're able to do. But again, you have to be in the right rooms, because you don't know what you don't know. And so that's what we're all about, really helping them to fix their credit, fund their vision, and create multiple streams of income. And so that's what it's all about.
This is, I mean, thank you so much for making this voice so loud. I mean, for the working women, I mean, because the work is getting a lot harder, because things are cutting down on staffing and increasing workers' work, and women usually get a lot of that besides what they have to go home to. And how can somebody really even begin to present a dream to themselves. I mean, how could we trigger something in them if they're in this position where, they're taking care of their adult parents, they have their kids, they're working hard, they may be lead department people, or, just women trying to get into a lead position. We're always chasing those things because that's in this one function of our life. But I want to kind of reverse that and build the dream to be that big, because the work is only going to be this long, but that dream is going to extend with you into your future forever. And what would you say to that girl who's dropped everything right now to say, what, really? I could do that? Me? Just like I said that. So
I would definitely say get in the right rooms, meaning start surrounding yourself with people who are doing what you want to do, because it's important, because they will support you. But if you are around people that, for instance, when I started out in entrepreneurship, a lot of I don't know if you've experienced this before, Lisa, but a lot of, while I was, still on my job working, I would have a lot of negativity from family members, from so-called, I'd like to say, friends, saying you should just stay on your job, don't follow your dreams. But look, if I had listened to them, then I would not be where I'm at today. A lot of women who were counting on me wouldn't be where they are at right now if I decided that I was just going to throw in the towel and not pursue what I know that I'm called to do. And so why should you put your dreams on the back burner when you should be following your dreams? And so just surround yourself with the people who are entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs that are already working on their business. There are a lot of people that are still in the same industry that you're in, that you can also align yourself with. But if you are an aspiring entrepreneur and you're wanting to really be a full-time entrepreneur, then you definitely want to make sure that you, and especially if you're a woman and you're tuning into this, get connected with us. Wealthy Women University is a free community as well. And I know Lisa will put the link also for you guys to be able to join. And so just get connected, so that we can support you and help you to go after your dreams. So you can then, work on your own terms and not, you want to have more freedom. That was my biggest thing, wanting to have more freedom to do what you want, when you want, family vacations and traveling, just exploring, being able to live life on your terms, not everybody else's terms.
Yes. Thank you to that, because that's what it is. And it's really, honestly, a lot of belief in yourself that, well, I do have this strong dream. This is something that I want to do. I mean, even when right before I became a podcast host, I was talking to a coach, and it was so funny because we're exploring things that I want. And then he realized and said, well, why are you doing that? You should be looking for a place where you can talk. Because I like talking. I talk too much sometimes. I talk. And so, and sure enough, as he said that, apparently I was coming close to the road, so I was able to veer off. And then here I am, and I have been welcomed into prconnectionsradio.com, which is so exciting to be working with Guy and Dana. And, I want to thank you, Charlotte, because this conversation has been exciting. We got to share some very exciting things. I'd like to welcome all those working women to really open up that voice, that vision, because it's there. And this is why the title was From Crayons to Keyboard, because it really did take me from that to be here at the keyboard. I mean, there's more books that are coming out of me that are just so crazy to think that I could even say this, but those next adventures, all at the keyboard is the magical place for me today. And it's just, that creativity, sharing these thoughts, opening minds of women, and really being able to be that trailblazer of everything that, I jumped behind those closed doors. So thanks a lot for opening the door, letting me in, taking me and showing me, because I've learned so much, and there's so much more to learn because we're going to be connected for, the legacy.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was absolutely amazing. And thank you all for tuning in with us.
Yes, here at PR Connections Radio, I'm your host, Lisa Vasquez, Liberating Menopause. Again, don't forget, we're unbinding women from the roles that try to define them. We're bringing the conversation, because if we don't talk about it, it won't be heard. We can't make a change, and we want to create changes for everyone. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by NVisionU. NVisionU has discovered how to impact spirit, body, and soul with spray technology in just 30 seconds. With NVisionU, you can achieve optimal health and start living the life you have always dreamed of. Use the promo code NVisionU.com/VernDix to take control of your health naturally. PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.